This is the fifth part of the Cree Fashion Guide. In it, I will tell you about working with information, as well as about the new Redstone mechanisms that will simplify your life and about wireless signal transmission at a distance. And I also want to say hello to everyone who writes comments and subscribes to me. Thank you, you are the best. And we will start with the cuckoo clock, which is a decorative block and shows the time if the rotation is brought to them from behind. Also, this watch can crow twice a day, at noon and at night. And to create them, you will need any board, andesite case and clock. Next, I'll tell you about the smart frame. You can put objects in it as well as in the usual one, the only thing is that you will not be able to rotate them in it. But if you click on a frame that already has an object in it with the same object, it will emit a short restun signal. And a smart frame can be made from an ordinary frame and a brass sheet. Next, we will talk about measuring units in the CRET mode, which will show you detailed information about the load in your system and the current rotation speed. And we'll start with a speedometer that shows the speed of rotation. He has 2 points for feeding it, and accordingly, depending on how the source rotates, this is how the arrow on this display will change. But that's not all. They can be easily rotated with a key, and also if you put on engineering glasses, you will get more information. And now I'll tell you about the stress meter, which shows the load. It also has 2 inputs for feeding rotation. Let's say we have a rotation source and we can connect several mechanisms. The arrow will show us how close we are to the limit when the system is overloaded. You can install this unit anywhere in the chain of mechanisms. And with engineering glasses, you will see how much your system is loaded as a percentage. By the way, if you put a resto comparator next to a stressometer and a speedometer, it will, according to their indications, give a resto signal. To make a speedometer, you have to make a compass, an andesite case, also from a speedometer you can make a stress meter and vice versa, respectively. Crete Fashion has its own special observers, which I will tell you about now. The first is the observer of fullness. It shows the fullness of the inventory that is connected to it, while emitting a restun signal. This is how it looks. By the way, it has a filter slot on top, and this side with a white border like this is considered the main working one. You will connect any inventory to it. Opening the interface for the first time, it may seem complicated, but it's not. To begin with, it has 2 stripes, upper and lower. The upper strips you will find here is such a small model of a chest. After starting to fill the chest, you will notice that this slider will move gradually to the right, according to the fullness of the chest. I even now connected the funnel to the chest to make it easier for you in the form of movement. Also, by pointing at the strip, holding the shift and rotating the wheel, you can adjust the sliders on the upper and lower strip by setting the maximum occupancy value for the chest. For example, now our chest has reached its extreme position on the first upper strip and it moves to the second, descending as if by an arrow. And now the observer will emit a Rostov signal in all directions. In order for the reston signal to disappear, you can pick up items from the inventory, respectively, your chest will return to its initial position. Or, if you do not want to remove items, then you can simply change the limits and then the slider will return to the zone of the age-free signal. Remember a simple rule: if this little chest is on such a bright red stripe, then only then will a signal be generated by the realm. And using the invert signal button, you can swap which of the stripes will have a bright red color. Also, using the filter slot, you can determine how much your inventory will be filled with a specific item. For example, now we have everything filled with redstone, but at the same time the slider is at 0. That's because we don't have diamonds inside the chest, and if we add diamonds, then only then will the slider start moving to the right. Also, by the fullness of this strip here, you can determine how full the inventory is. Now I will remove the item and you have noticed that its value has decreased. Next, we have an observer of the contents. He determines the presence of some object, while emitting a redstone signal. Just don't confuse him with the previous observer, they are similar, but still different. He has such a reston strip from the bottom along the contour. We still have the same working face, this is white and there is also a slot for the filter. It works with any inventory, as long as it is installed with a white face to them. And as soon as an item appears in this inventory, it will start emitting a growth signal and will disappear if you take it away. You can also specify a specific subject using a filter, and only if this item is inside the inventory, only then it will emit a growth signal, then it will allow you to control the resources passing through the funnels and gutters. Well, as you noticed, it is able to work with a conveyor belt. He can do the same with liquids, for example, with a bowl, a liquid tank, or even determine the presence of liquid in pipes, which is very useful. And recipes. To monitor the contents, you will need a redstone comparator, a brass case, an electronic lamp. You can also make this observer a fullness observer and vice versa. Also, WET adds new items for Redstone schemes that will make your life easier. And first let's talk about the analog lever. Unlike the usual one, it allows you to precisely adjust the strength of the Redstone signal with each press. Putting on engineering glasses and pointing at this lever, you will notice the inscription analog power. It shows how much the rest signal will spread. Each right-click increases the distance by 1 block. The error plus the right mouse button, respectively, reduces. And to create an analog lever, you will need a stick and an andesite case. And then I'll tell you about the Redstone pulse repeater. From any Redstone signal, it will make a short pulse. The incoming signal will enter here, and it will exit from this side. And if you hover over the repeater and turn the wheel, then you can adjust the delay before triggering. And don't confuse ticks with seconds. And to create it, you will need Redstone dust, a brass sheet, a Redstone torch and 3 stones of some kind. And now we'll talk about the Redstone pulse extender, which will increase the delay before it disappears. Redstone should be served from this side, but he will come out from this side. And the amount of delay can be set by rotating the mouse wheel. And now the recipes. You will need 2 Redstone torches, a brass sheet, Redstone dust and 3 stones of some kind. The next useful thing is a powered lever. Simply put, this is a lever that can be turned on and off using other Redstone signals. Look carefully, the side where this triangle is the entrance, that is, from this side we can turn on our lever, and to turn it off, you can use the following 2 sides, where these are the stripes. I have designated them with 2 wooden buttons. Turn it off, turn it on and turn it off again. By the way, if you click on it, it behaves like a simple lever. And to create it, you will need a Redstone ski torch, a lever, 2 redstones and 3 stones of some kind. Next, we will have a powered switch lever. This is also a lever that can be turned on and off using Redstone signals, but it can only be applied from one side, where there is such a triangle. And if you just click on it, then it works like a normal lever. To create it, you will need an X-ray torch, a lever and 3 stones of some kind. Next, I'll tell you about the Redstone wireless signal transmitter. It is needed in order to transmit a Redstone at a distance without red dust. To get started, you will need at least 2. You will send an arrest signal to the first one, and receive it with the second one. Right-click on the wireless transmitter with the clamped shaft and it will have such an antenna. Now it receives a signal from this transmitter. You can put as many receivers as you want, but at a distance of no more than 128 blocks from the source. But what to do when we have several sources and we want, for example, to connect only certain lamps? There are frequencies for this. Each transmitter has slots for setting frequencies, and in frequency 1 I will put, say, a diamond. And now I go to the receiver, find the frequency 1 and also put a diamond there. Now they are connected and when we turn on this particular source, only this receiver will light up. Now imagine that you are playing on a server and a lot of players will use a diamond or some other common item, so use the second frequency as well. You can create your own unique combination of any 2 items, even from different mods. Thus, you will protect yourself from connecting strangers to your system. And to create this unit, you will need an Estonian torch and a brass case. Next, I'll tell you about the connection controller. In fact, this is a remote control that you can carry with you or install on the department, and by pressing the buttons, you send Redstone signals to a wireless Redstone transmitter. Take the communication controller in your hand and press the right mouse button. Here you can press the following buttons W, A, SD, space and shift. You probably noticed that every time I press any of these buttons, a restun signal is sent to this receiver here. If you press the shift and right mouse button while holding the communication controller in your hand, you will go to its settings menu, and here you can link any frequency of the receiver to a specific button. This is Y, this is C, this is A, this is D, this is a space, and this is a shift. Now, if I press the buttons, nothing will happen, all because Purity 1 is already clogged with Redstone. If we open our communication controller and let's say we put a restun on the double, press the confirm button, then now we can control this lamp. Also, by right-clicking on the receiver, you can quickly copy any frequency. You will have a binding mode, just press some key that you want to bind to. I will have a space. If we open it, we will notice that the frequencies have been copied. You can also put the communication controller on the chair by simply right-clicking, and to remove it, right-click with the clamped shaft and it will fall. It can be picked up. And to create a communication controller, you will need any 6 buttons in a Redstone wireless signal transmission. And now I'll tell you about the gas discharge indicator. It is needed to display text and digital information, such as the strength of the restun signal. You can only put 2 of these things at a time, so if you want to enter a long message, put them in a row. And they can also be mounted on the wall and on the ceiling. To set some text, place the tag in the anvil and write some word and click this tag on the indicators. And you can remove the text by clicking an empty right hand. And with Redstone it's even easier, just give a signal to the indicator. You can also paint the indicator using any of the Minecraft dyes. And to create them, you will need 2 electronic lamps. Next, I'll tell you about the mechanical scoreboard. It is also needed in order to output information. It is a composite structure, blocks that are combined. And it works from the energy of rotation. You can enter text on it using tags, the color of the text can be changed with dyes, and you can remove the text by clicking with your right empty hand. And to create it, you will need 2 andesite alloys and an electronic lamp. Next, I will tell you about the information transmitter. It is able to read information from some blocks and transfer them to others. As an example, we will take information from the depot and upload it to the gas discharge indicator. Take the information transmitter in your hand and right-click on the block where you will display the information. In my case it is a gas discharge indicator. Then install the information transmitter on the unit from where you will read the information. Then open the information transmitter, you will see the following menu. You can remove the first lines of which parameter will be displayed, but here we have only one, this is the name of the items. In the second line, you can write any phrase that will be played before the information. I will write, let's say, this, and here you can choose where exactly you will have the information displayed. In our case, we have only 1 row of gas discharge indicators and, accordingly, only 1 line. Then we just throw away the diamond and wait until we have the information. It does not appear immediately, but with a delay. You should have a light bulb light up and then the information will be updated. At the moment, the information can be displayed on 4 blocks. This is a mechanical scoreboard, a sign, a gas discharge indicator or a department that has a book. The information will be written directly into it. By pointing at the transmitter and opening the menu of hints, you can see which sources can be information for this block, read more here. And to create the transmission of information, you will need a Redstone torch, a brass case and a copper sheet. Well, it's time for us to say goodbye, friends. I think I'll get to these trains out of fashion someday. And Enderka was with you, so far.